There is something so very magical and heartwarming about a family opening gifts together around a Christmas tree. Get ready to grab your tissues, as this girl is about to have an extra special Christmas she doesn't expect. This boy is just trying to survive middle school and keep away from all the bullies, but then he learns a secret that will change his perspective on everything. It can be frustrating not having money to buy the things you need, especially after saving up money over a long period of time. What unexpected thing does a generous person do to make this man's day a bit sweeter? You'll only find out by watching this episode of VoiceyHere's Wholesome Stories. This fan-submitted story was called The Greatest Gift. Now I want to share my own Christmas gift story. In 1978, when I was only 7 years old, one of the first electronic toys ever, Merlin, was released. The TV ads were everywhere, and I wanted one so badly I could taste it. However, as the daughter of a carpenter father, I understood well what it meant to be less fortunate than many. I won't call us poor, because really we weren't. We had food and clothing and a roof over our heads. We had everything we needed, and even a lot of things we wanted as children, both my brother and I. Anyway, I well understood, even at only 7, that warm weather meant work for Daddy, and work meant money. Winter meant a lot of bad weather, and that meant very little work and very little money. So in the weeks leading up to Christmas, Mum and Dad asked us kids what we wanted for Christmas. I can't remember everything we wanted, or even everything I wanted, to be honest, but I do vividly remember asking for a Barbie doll horse, a black one named Midnight. I wanted that more than anything else, is what I told my mum. Just about the middle of December, when Mum and I were talking about Daddy not working and how difficult it could make things, I was a very serious child. I finally confessed to my mum that what I really wanted most for Christmas was a Merlin, but I told her those were really expensive and I couldn't see spending that much money on a toy. Mum said something to the effect of maybe getting me one next summer when Daddy was working and we had more money. I told her that's what I hoped for, and was why I had not brought it up before. I can't even imagine now how that conversation must have broken my mother's heart, but she never let on. She knew that was simply in my nature, even as a young child. So fast forward to the holiday, and we all pile into the car and drive ourselves and our gifts the 2 hours from our home to my aunt and uncle's house. There were so many cousins down there, and piles upon piles of presents in my aunt's living room. On the big night, after a huge supper, everyone crowded into the living room for gift opening time. It was absolute bedlam, as you can imagine. 8 or 9 kids, plus their families and my aunt and uncle. Wrapping paper and boxes every which way. Shouting and laughter, and just plain craziness. In the midst of all of this, I sat in the corner closest to the tree. I had already peeked at the gifts that had my name, and one big box I just knew contained my Barbie horse. So of course, that was the first gift I opened. And when my beautiful black horse was revealed, I promptly opened it up and started brushing its hair and playing with its accessories, totally oblivious to the rest of my gifts. I gushed to Mum and Dad about how happy I was and thanked them over and over for him. Mummy kept telling me to open my other gifts, so I'd open one, coo it over, then put it down and pick up my horse again. I was a bit horse crazy as a child. I can't imagine how Mum and Dad must have felt given the circumstances, but they didn't lose patience with me. They just kept saying, "Open your other presents." But I didn't care about the other gifts. I had the best gift of all, my Barbie horse. Eventually, I got most of my other gifts open. By now the room was an avalanche of gifts, wrapping paper, boxes, bags and kids. Mum and Dad were sitting on the far couch across the room from me. Again, Mummy told me to open the rest of my presents. I looked around. I already had, hadn't I? Then I spotted a small box still under the tree, buried under some torn paper. I reached for it, and was surprised by how heavy it was. I checked the tag, and sure enough, it was for me. I looked around to make sure one of my cousins hadn't taken my Barbie horse when I wasn't looking, then turned back to the gift. I had no idea what it could be. So small, but so heavy. Maybe shoes? The box was about the right size. I tore open the paper, and everything just froze. Time stopped. My heart stopped. My breathing stopped. There was no sound, no movement. It all just came to a standstill. For there, under the torn paper, was a black box with fancy blue letters that read, Merlin. I must have stared at it for hours, it felt like. And still, nothing moved. No one breathed or made a sound. Then my tiny mind understood what this was. The expensive electronic toy that I had wanted so badly, but knew my parents could not afford. They had bought not only the Barbie horse I longed for, they had bought the Merlin too. Suddenly the world crashed back into motion. I screamed. I cried. I leapt to my feet, still screaming. My parents thought I'd break my neck scrambling over boxes and paper and toys just to get to them. I hugged them both so tightly. I was crying. They were crying. I couldn't breathe for sobbing. I couldn't even manage a thank you. I was so overwhelmed, I thought I'd die from sheer joy right then and there. Mummy kissed my tear-stained cheeks and said, "I love you, sweetheart." Daddy wiped his eyes and kissed me too. "You're my little angel, and you deserve this gift," he said. I couldn't speak. I knew what this had cost them. I knew that this toy meant that they had done without, so I could have it. I sat up and shook my head. "Cost too much, take it back," I choked out. I thrust the unopened box into Mum's lap. They both just stared at me. "I can't take it. We need the money for other things. More important things than a stupid toy." I was crying so hard I could barely speak. My heart and my mind a swirl of confusion and love and delight and terror. To this day, I don't know who was crying harder, them or me. Mum and Dad kept assuring me that it was fine. They had been saving for this gift for months, and it was fine. I kept insisting it was far too selfish of me to keep such an expensive toy when the times were tight. Finally, Dad told me, "I don't have the receipt anymore, so we can't take it back." That was the only way I'd stop arguing about it. My brother and cousins, of course, all thought I was crazy. I remember my parents and my aunt and uncle sitting up at the kitchen table, talking for a long time that night after everyone else went home, and my brother and I went to bed. I heard Mummy crying several times, and Aunt Loretta too. I remember seeing Uncle Lee saying he had never known a child like me. I remember wondering what was so unusual about me. I loved my parents and I wanted the best for them, just like they did for me. I played with that Merlin almost every day. I still have it, by the way. 40 years after I received it as the most wonderful gift in my life. And in case you wondered, it still works. Oh, and I also have the Barbie horse too. It's pretty refreshing to hear a story like this. We hear a lot of stories about entitled parents, but entitled kids are just as common, if not more so. Kids naturally feel entitled to things, especially at Christmas. I don't know what it is, but there's something really heartwarming and special when somebody sacrifices something of their own to then give it as a gift to someone else. You can tell that's why the parents were crying too. It was just as much a joy for them to give the gift as it was for the child to receive it. And that's really what makes gift giving so special. It's not that you're getting something that you want, it's that someone's expressing the love that they have for you. Now, it's not the only way to express love, but for some people, that's one of the main ways that they feel loved by others. This story was called, "I used to pay my middle school bully to not bully me. Then I found out he actually needed the money. He made my life a living hell. He would turn all the boys in class against me and bully me about my eyebrows. One time, he begged me to buy him pizza, and he said he promises not to bully me all week if I do. So I bought him a box of pizza, and he fulfilled his promise. I loved the idea. I began to do it on a regular basis. I started asking him every Friday what he wants next week, so that the bullying doesn't happen again. He asked for 2 bags of hot fries, a potato chip flavor here in the US, and another time he wanted some milk from the cafeteria. And once he asked for colored pencils for art class. My school has a uniform dress code. It was $25 per shirt, and the pants were $15, if I remember correctly. He showed up the first day of 8th grade in regular clothes, a tee and jeans, so he got sent to the main office to wait for his parents. My aunt was there because she used to drop off my lunch and hand me money to buy food after school. She saw him upset and asked what's wrong, and he starts crying lightly. His parents wouldn't come because they couldn't afford the uniform, and decided it would be best to avoid the situation. After my aunt hands me my lunch, she buys him a uniform hoodie, a couple of tees, and a long sleeve. He said he had pants at home and he was hesitant to accept, but eventually took them and thanked her. Now, 13 years later, he runs a non-profit that has something to do with kids receiving books. I think it's sweet, and I forgive him for being a bully because he didn't grow up to be an a-hole like most bullies. It's amazing how one act of kindness can have a tremendous effect on a person's life and completely transform them. This is the basic premise of the story of Les Mis. If you've never read it or seen it or heard it as a musical, it's definitely worth seeing. This story was called I Had a Small Victory with My Dad, and it's making me happy. My dad has Asperger's, and it's notoriously difficult to deal with. Growing up, he never really told me that he loved me or hugged me. He just assumed that I knew and wouldn't say. It was a difficult time, having a dad that didn't understand your emotions or any sort of affection. But he does love me. How do I know this? For my birthday, I made him a small leather bracelet, just a simple band. The inside had an expression he often used with me growing up, and the outside had the nautical coordinates of the dock he used to take me fishing at every Saturday morning when I was a kid. It was our thing. We wouldn't talk, but I liked being outside, and I knew he liked it because every weekend, without fail, he would ask me if I was ready to go fishing. No prompting from Mum. He simply called me to say thanks for the gift, and he hung up. I didn't think much of it. But anyways, my mum called me yesterday and asked if I had told her neighbors about the bracelet I made Dad. I was confused. I had not told them. She said that she hadn't either. She told me that they were talking to her about what a great gift it was and were asking if I could show them where to make one like it. We realized Dad must have been talking about it to them and actually showed them. Dad never talks about things he likes, especially to strangers. She then told me that he's been wearing it almost every day. Again, this is a man who is not about adornment, and she saw him sending a picture to his brother. He might not say it, but that's how I know he misses me. Hope to see you soon, Pops. Like we mentioned in the other story, some people understand and receive love through gift giving. For this person, although they gave a gift, it sounds like words of affirmation are really important to them. Understanding what your love language is can be really important to maintaining healthy relationships. You might believe you're expressing love to your partner because you do acts of service to them every single day, but for them, they just want a hug and to hear how much you love them. It's important to understand, for those who you care about who are around you, how is it that they understand love, and then try showing love to them in their love language. It also might be why you might feel like someone else doesn't love or care for you until you realize that the fact that they every week give you a little gift is their way of trying to express that they love you. I'll leave a link in the description to my Audible sponsored link, and you can get the audiobook The 5 Love Languages for free if you'd like. Just my little gift to you guys to show I love you. This fan-submitted story was called Elementary Schoolgirls Catch a Shoplifter. Hey Voicey, I saw you were looking for some wholesome stuff. This is more my co-worker's story than mine, but here we are. In the cast we have co-worker, brave girl, junkie, and me, some confused intern who happened to be there. Some years ago, I was a summer intern at a cinema. This happened on an otherwise very quiet day. The weather was really nice and a few people wanted to come see a movie. I was working the cash register at the snack store with my co-worker when a group of maybe 6 girls, probably aged 9 or 10, showed up at the register. I'd seen them buzzing about the store before, looking at our candy section, arguing about whether or not they could afford popcorn, and generally doing the usual stuff people do when waiting for their movie to start. I thought they were coming to pay the stuff they'd picked out, but that wasn't the case. The girls came to the counter, kinda looked at each other, trying to gather courage to talk, until one of them finally steps a bit forward. There's a man taking candy out of the pick and mix boxes and just eating them. Oh, I turned to the co-worker. We should call security, right? Co-worker, taking out her walkie-talkie, thanks the girls and then radios the security guys about a shoplifter. You can manage here on your own for a moment, right? I had only started a few days ago and was still figuring things out. Sure. Coworker then asks the girls to come with her and discreetly point out the guy. Honestly, the security guys would have easily found the junkie, even without them identifying him. The dude was white in the face with bloodshot eyes, staggering about, picking sweets from the boxes into a plastic bag, and eating some then and there. It was really obvious what he was doing. The only reason Coworker and I couldn't see Junkie was because the theater manager had decided it was a great idea to place a giant advertisement board between the counter and one half of the shop. A guy from security comes in and walks over to Junkie and tells him to come to the counter to pay for his candy. He looks very confused but comes over anyway. Coworker returns to ring him up. She probably wanted to spare me from having to serve him since I was so new. Right, I forgot to pay, right. That's okay, we'll just ring you up now. But afterwards, you should leave the theater. Right, I already ate some though. Coworker weighing his candy bag. It's okay, I'll just add to the weight a bit. She added more than a bit. So he paid up and his card wasn't denied like I half expected. The security guard walked him out and he went along without any protests. That could have been the end of it, but then Coworker saw the girls observe the junkie getting escorted out and came up with an idea. She turns to me. Wait, should we give something to those girls as a reward since they were so clever? Can we? Yeah, we can. She then radios the manager on duty to let him know of her plan, and he gives her a half-hearted, "Yeah, go for it." She prints out gift vouchers to the shop. It's lucky she remembered how many girls there were in the group, because I sure wouldn't have. Now these coupons aren't worth much. These are the sorts of things we'd usually hand out to customers as an apology. For example, if there were audio glitches or other small problems in the movie they'd seen. You can only afford a small popcorn bucket, a couple of sodas, etc. But to regular elementary school kids though, that value was a much bigger deal. At this point, the girls had gone to stand in front of the screening room where their movie was going to be shown. I lean over the counter to see better and watch Coworker walk over to them and hand the vouchers out. They get really excited and run over to the shop, one of them panicking that they could miss the movie. Coworker was yelling behind them, "Don't worry about that, the doors aren't even open yet, and there's a lot of ads before the movie anyways." So the kids quickly pick out some stuff, line up to pay with their vouchers, and then run back to the door, all excited. And so, I believe the girls got a great story to tell their parents and friends about how they caught a shoplifter and were rewarded with free snacks. As they rightly pointed out, when you're a kid, any small little gift like that can just mean the world. It's just the best thing ever. I mean, you're already excited that you're at the movies. It's just a small slice of independence, right? The fact then you were brave enough to call out this guy stealing the candy, which isn't a huge offense, but it's still not good. And then to get a surprise where you're actually rewarded with free popcorn or drinks or whatever, that would seriously make your day, and something you'd probably remember as a story you'd tell for the rest of your life. If you'd like your story to be narrated by me, don't forget to visit the subreddit r/VoiceyHere, link below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.